Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the October 25th meeting of the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. There's a copy in the packet. Are there any questions or concerns regarding the minutes? Seeing none, is there a motion for approval? We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And it passes unanimously. Next up is the consent docket. There are a number of items on the consent docket. Do any of the trustees want to pull any item off for individual consideration or questions? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent docket? We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And it passes unanimously. Next up is the concurrence docket. One item on the concurrence docket. Are there any questions regarding that item? Motion? Please vote. Passes unanimously. Item 5 are emergency construction contracts. There's one item this morning. It's emergency contract for a sanitary sewer at the general area of Southwest 12th and Lee for $1,161,500. Are there any questions regarding that emergency contract? Seeing none, is there a motion for approval? Motion is second. Passes unanimously. Item 6 are items for individual consideration. First up is a resolution regarding a $2 million grant application with the Oklahoma, I guess there's 2 in 1, for the Oklahoma Water Resources Board. And Vanessa, are you going to talk to us about this afternoon?
Good afternoon, Chairman and Trustees. Vanessa Aguilar. The item that we have before you today is seeking authorization for the General Manager or designee to submit a grant application to the Oklahoma Water Resources Board. There are a couple of grant opportunities that the OWRB has recently notified communities of within the state of Oklahoma. The first grant opportunity is related to the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funds that have been received from the state. This is a grant opportunity for communities to invest in water or wastewater projects. It is a competitive selection process for grants. It's for this particular grant that we're applying for is for medium to large communities, which is a population over 7,000. The deadline for this particular grant is November 30th, and so part of this, we're requesting to submit a couple of projects that are already within our CIP for consideration for additional grant funding. The second grant that we are also requesting authorization to apply for is also ARPA funding grant opportunity from the Water Board. It is a dam rehabilitation grant program. This grant program provides up to $1 million in grant proceeds if awarded, and there is no cost share. I did forget to mention on the other grant opportunity, it's up to $2 million of grant, and that one does have a 50-50 grant component. The deadline for the dam rehabilitation grant program is October 31st. So with this resolution, staff is recommending your approval so we can submit those 2 grant applications to the OWRB for consideration.
Do we know, Vanessa, if there's going to be other opportunities? I know that they had split that out between larger communities and smaller communities. That we think will have other programs. Do we have opportunities with their ARPA funds to apply for?
With the ARPA funds through the OWRB, there were 2 Senate bills that were authorized to increase the funding within their programs that they have. So they have a program for small communities. They have a certain allotment for that, for medium to large, and then specific for the dam programs. Right now, we're only familiar of the ARPA-related funding opportunities related to the medium to large communities that we're applying to, which is up to $2 million per community.
Craig, a lot of the larger grants will come through IIJA at a later time.
Okay.
And there are, right now, there are specific divisions within the grant monies, large organizations versus the small organizations. So there's specific guidelines in there, but we haven't seen the final versions of those yet, but we're awaiting to see how that's going to come through from EPA to the state, to the OWRB and ODEQ.
Are there any other questions regarding the resolution for the grant applications? Seeing none, is there a motion for approval? I have a motion and a second. Please vote. It's approved unanimously. Next up is an agreement between the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust and the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust for $2,010,000 for increment District Number 2 to do some sanitary sewer improvements in the area of Northwest 6th and Chartel. Just cover the.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There is an area bounded by 6th, Chartel, Main Street, and Western that is extremely flat, and it was developed a long time ago and is now redeveloping, and the sewers in that area will not handle the volume of the redevelopment project. So we asked the Economic Development Board if they would fund a project so that we can relay some of the sewer in that area to handle the redevelopment that's expected within those boundaries. And they have awarded $2,010,000 for that sewer improvement project.
Very good. I think that's a good solution, and that'll open that up for some development to occur down there. I see it's $2,010,000.
Yes.
I think we should try really hard to get that done for less than $2 million.
We're going to do our absolute best.
Are there any other questions or comments regarding this issue? Therefore, is there a motion for approval of the resolution? And it passes unanimously. Next up are items from trustee. Are there any items from the trustees? See none. General manager reports.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. This morning at the council meeting, we presented our proposed 5-year capital improvement plan to City Council. I would like to thank Crystal Kowalik for helping put it together, and Charity Robertson and her group to actually get it into the City Council agenda and help me present it this morning. So thank you very much for your help. Vanessa, thank you so much for your presentation earlier. The other thing I'd like to do is give everybody an update on the water release from Canton. We asked for a 13,000 acre foot release that began a week ago yesterday. The water reached the Hefner Canal Sunday and is continuing as we speak. The Corps plans to close the gates on Friday at 3 p.m. So we're starting to see the elevation of Hefner improve. And then with this day and a half worth of rain we got, that ought to help a bit as well. Be happy to answer any questions regarding the release.
Any questions for Mr. Browning? Okay.
And then finally, Vanessa is going to join us one more time to give us an update on the pro forma.
Good afternoon, Chairman and trustees. So in regards to the general manager report that you have for the monthly pro forma for water, wastewater, and solid waste management, it has actuals reported through September 30th. Overall, we're meeting targets with ending cash balances, our metrics including working capital days and our debt service coverage ratio. Revenues are within target as well, slightly above in cash collections for our service charges, and this is primarily due to the high water demand that we observed during the summer months due to the hot and dry weather. Water operating expenses is where I wanted to focus the update on today. We have seen an increase in our transfers, excuse me, transfers to our city operations budget, primarily driven by the increased costs due to electricity as well as chemical pricing that we've seen. Operational staff has done analysis, and we've looked at our forecast for the remainder of this year. Compared to our original adopted city operations budget, we're forecasting to be approximately $7 million over, or about 7%. With electricity, we're looking at about an additional $8.5 million for electricity for FY23. This is due in part to the increased electricity rates recovering the Winter Storm 2021 cost, as well as fuel cost surcharges that they've added to our electricity bills as well. On the chemical side, we've seen an impact to our chemicals budget, primarily due to increase in chemical pricing. Chlorine, as an example, has increased almost 300%. Orthophosphate has increased almost 75%. So that, coupled with the increased demand, we're projected to treat 1 billion gallons more this year compared to that last year. So the system demand coupled with the pricing increase, we're seeing an increase to our chemicals for this year. That's forecasted to be an additional $4.5 million for this year. Through the city process, we're looking to submit that as a budget amendment for City Council's consideration in November to add the budget authority to make those transfers to pay for our electricity and our chemicals budget. In addition, due to inflation, supply chain challenges, and increase in material costs, we're just seeing an overall impact to our operations and maintenance and also to our capital budget. So in the face of these challenges, some of the things that we're doing to minimize the impact to our financial plan, we're looking at partnering with our financial advisor, and we're looking at alternative financing strategies so that we're still able to execute our capital improvement plan, but looking at different alternatives, whether it's looking at taking the Second Atoka pipeline projects and finding innovative financing solutions that can work for those type of projects while still being able to execute our capital plan. So we've started that work with PFM, our financial advisor. Over the next month or so, we'd be looking to look at those evaluations and provide recommendations. We're also partnering with our trust engineer and OG&E to look at our rate plans and make sure that we are operationally on the most efficient rate plans and cost efficiencies that were on the most effective rate plans. So we're looking at our rate plans with OG&E and our trust engineer just to make sure that we have the right mix. In addition, within our staff, we've added a resource in this fiscal year's budget. We've added a position to help us further pursue more grant opportunities. So we've added a revenue auditor in our group. As I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of federal funding opportunities, and to have that dedicated resource to help us leverage those opportunities will help us further make sure that we're able to execute our CIP program. That, and also, as we've previously mentioned, within our CIP plan, we've postponed some projects until later years just to make sure that we stay balanced within year to year with our financial plan that we had forecasted. But overall, we're looking at a mix of different strategies to make sure that we're still able to execute our goals for each year while maintaining service delivery for our customers. So that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Any questions for Vanessa?
Yeah, what is the total amount that's going to be going in front of council in November?
We're looking at a budget amendment of $13.1 million for electricity and chemicals for this year.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Is there a motion to receive the monthly performance status report? Don't need a motion. Very good. Citizens to be heard. Paul Matthews is here this afternoon, and Paul was here to talk about consent agenda item D, which was the rejection of a bid.
Obviously a little bit late, but good afternoon, trustees. I appreciate you taking time to listen to me. Regarding the rejection of project WC 0950 water line replacement, I think it's kind of important to stand in front before you guys and let you know that the optics on this thing in regard to the engineer's estimate and how far over the bids were was probably not very good. The issue at hand is that engineer's estimate was grossly undervalued in that the actual bids came in at what I would consider market price. So moving forward, as this project comes back up for rebid, you guys are going to have more cost in bidding the project. You're going to have more cost maintaining those areas that are in desperate need of being replaced with additional maintenance, and the cost of the project is probably going to go up again. So although the optics are not very good in terms of how far over the cost was over the engineer's estimate, in terms of value, if you look at it to the previous job that was bid 4 months ago, I bid jobs specifically on their merit. I look at everything that's a part of that job, and I say, okay, it's going to cost me X. And then I kind of use a per lineal foot price to determine whether I'm in the market, because I'm at a hard bid situation. I got to make sure my numbers are right so that I can be competitive. If I were to compare the lineal foot price of the job that I bid 4 months ago to the lineal foot price that I bid this project on, we were actually less per lineal foot than the job that bid and was awarded previously. So being late to the party, per se, on consent agenda on D, I don't think there's much can be done now because it's already been approved, but I would have liked to have had the opportunity to sit down with the city and do some potential value engineering on the project to see if we couldn't have saved a little bit of money on the deal. But at the end of the day, with the velocity of price changes, although like I said, the optics were really bad, I don't think you're going to save money by rejecting that bid. That's all I have. Any questions?
Mr. Brown, do you have any comments?
Mr. Chairman, we have taken a look at a number of projects this year, and we have anticipated significant increases in cost. And we've had to evaluate how we go about executing this work. Should we postpone some of the work? Should we try different methodologies to bid the work to help the contractors with their uncertainties so that we get better pricing? And so we intend to go down that path on this project and the similar projects in the future. Not exactly sure what we can do, but we intend to work with the contractor community to see if we can get better pricing going forward, so that instead of doing 1 or 2 of these a year, we need to do 3 or 4 of these small line replacement projects to stay on schedule. Somehow or another, we're going to have to come up with the right formula. So at this time, we're not just rejecting the bid, we're rejecting and we're coming up with a different formula for bidding these projects.
I guess one of my questions would be is why didn't CEC know?
I can't answer that question.
That question should be asked.
They actually did an update. They had the original price, then they did an update. And their update, I'm speculating, did not consider the fact that the material contractors are not holding prices for very long, if at all. And so that may have been the factor that caused the contractors to bid much higher than the engineer's estimate. Speculating, but it seems to be a reasonable speculation.
I mean, I hear Mr. Matthews' concerns, and $2 million is, on a $5.8 million project, that's a lot over budget, and Although I will have to say that the two bids, 1 and 2, are fairly close in price. I would recommend that you talk to the contractors and the engineer and maybe get together and see what we can do to understand what's going on and try to get this project back on track.
Chairman Couch, if you don't mind me commenting on that, as I was stating, if I look at the barometer of price per lineal foot on the projects, this job was somewhere in the neighborhood of $272 a lineal foot. The previous job that bid was awarded was over $290 or $80 a foot. So the job, WC 0950 that was been rejected was actually less expensive per lineal foot to install than the previous job. So to your point of CEC, they had a barometer there to be able to determine what potentially could have been the project estimate. And so it wouldn't look so bad.
I'm not versed enough to know the depth and the working
Sure,
conditions.
I get it. I'm just trying to give you some
Obviously,
sort of
groundwater,
reference.
there's all kinds of conditions
Yeah.
that can change those prices, but
Yeah.
yeah, I understand.
So.
Thank you. All right. Any other business? Hearing none, we are adjourned.